They had my children's name. They knew what I did for a living, that I worked for the government. I was a federal air marshal. And they told the school that I was going to be getting transferred and that the kids wouldn't be back. So for them to gather all their stuff, have them standing by in the office, and they'd be by to pick them up at 3:00. Now, school didn't get out till I think 3:30. So they were planning on getting there about 30 minutes before school let out and taking my children. I don't know who this was to this day. Once me and so what happened was, and the reason we found out about this is my wife was out running some errands, and she got finished early. She had my youngest daughter with her and decided she'd go by the school early to see if they needed any help. And when she got there, the lady in the office told her, "Hey, we're really sorry to hear about the kids, not coming back." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And that's when she heard the story. So as soon as that happened, I get on the phone with my boss, and, my two bosses, both of them were former federal air marshals prior to 9/11. One was a SEAL Team 6 guy, Craig Sawyer. They call him Saw Man. And he actually runs a company now called Vets for Child Rescue, which they break up human trafficking rings. So he told me, he's like, "Don't worry, we're going to get you on the first flight back home. We're going to take care of this." So there was a big response, of people there at the school. And, nobody ever showed up. We still to this day don't know who it was it called, why they targeted my children, but it really changed the way we lived our lives. And I had slipped into what I call this being a 9-to-5er. I was a federal air marshal. I'm super proud of my job. I strap my gun, my badge on in the mornings, and I go to the airport, and all of a sudden I'm switched on. And then when I land in the afternoon and I'm on my way home, I'm switching off. And I realized pretty quickly that was no way for me to live my life, that the most important thing in my life was my family, and that I'm doing everything I can to protect these people on a plane, and I was dropping the ball at home. So that situational awareness piece became a very, very, and teaching it to children, in the way that they could understand without scaring them, it became a very important, mission for me. And that's what I tried to do in those books. But then, then as you start learning about human trafficking and what that looks like, you start, realizing that you've probably seen it before and just didn't recognize it for what it was, and you didn't do anything about it. So, I'm kind of making it to my mission through these books to help protect people. And then my new book, Homecoming, kind of touches on, that human trafficking element and the links that people will go to just to be a part of that world. And it's disgusting.
Yeah. That really resonates with me. Not that I've had a similar experience, but what I think is so great about the story you just shared is, for most people who aren't, your average individual probably doesn't know what the Cooper color code system is.
Right.
But, and I'd let you explain that, but the point of it is you're a trained professional. Situational awareness is part of your toolkit every day. And yet you can't do that all the time, right?
Right.
And then you slip a little bit. And the thing is, if it can happen to Gary, an air marshal, it can happen to everyone, because I will bet you dollars to donuts, your average person walking down the street, they're in condition white all the time. They never even get it in condition yellow.
Right. Yeah. And, that's, and I've worked with guys who, we're on both in, guys and girls. I say guys is just a blanket term, but I've worked with folks who are on both ends of that spectrum, where they're just constantly in condition white. It's almost, impossible to get them to pay attention, to anything. And then there's people who are hyper vigilant all the time. There's a bad guy around every corner, and those are the ones that burn out the quickest. This dude that's always in condition white, as long as nothing happens, he's probably going to live till he's 120 years old because he's not stressed out about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the guy who's on the other end of the spectrum may be hyper aware of his surroundings, and that's just burning him out inside, and it's going to cause problems down the road. You can't live with that kind of stress all the time. You just can't be that switched on. And one of the things I say in the book is, when people think about situational awareness, they kind of have this image in their head from the Jason Bourne movies. You know what I mean? He's sitting at the diner, and he's like, "I know the guy at the bar is left-handed. He weighs 250 pounds, and I can recite every license plate in the parking lot. I can barely recite my own license plate." You know what I mean?
No,
but I understand. I understand when it's important for me to be aware, and I understand how to do that without stressing myself out. And that's the two most important things that you need to balance that situational awareness, is knowing when to shut it off, when to shut it on, and at what level you need to be to react to bad situations.
Now, Gary, you mentioned the movies. You mentioned Jason Bourne. You mentioned the movies. You mentioned the whole, I know the guy at the bar is left-handed, blah, blah, blah. Some of those,
Yeah.
it's great movie magic. How realistic is it in the vein of situational awareness? How important is it to realize that he's left-handed?
Well, I think it depends. Like, I'm not trying to figure out if some dude sitting all the way across the room at the diner I'm eating at is left or right handed. However, if this dude corners me in the parking lot and starts asking me for money, now I'm looking.